Hello everybody. So today I thought that I would do a video on what each of my weapons actually do. Because I've had one of my 17 subscribers actually messaged me recently, and he asked me what do some of my weapons do and what they're made for, and if I use them for anything. Um, so I know that sometimes I get a lot of judgment, not from my subscribers really, though they don't really comment on anything. But I recently got 22 subscribers, so yay for that. So basically, um, instead of just showing all of my weapons at once without giving them a good explanation, I thought that it would be more understanding and easier if I just did a video on basically telling you guys the name of the weapon, what it's used for, what it does. Now, before I do get into that, this will be a long video, so bear with me. But if you do want to skip ahead, feel free to do so. But for people who are haters and very quick to judge and, jump to conclusions, I want everyone to know, including to my subscribers, that I'm not the kind of person that kills anybody. I do not kill people. I do not use my weapons on any kind of person unless I really have to, if necessary. If I had to protect myself or defend my family, then yes, I would go as far as using the knives on somebody, but I would never go as far as actually killing a person. But if I had no choice and a person had a gun and, they were a very high threat, then yes, I would probably take their life. But most of the time, I would not kill anybody, and I would basically stab them or hurt them enough to disable them where they are no longer a threat. So anyways, let's get into the video, and I guys hope you enjoy this video. This is going to be a long video because I do have tons of weapons. Now, we're going to start with some of the knives that I actually have on my shelf here. So we'll start off with the smallest knife. Now, this knife is a buck knife, and I actually bought this one at Bass Pro Shop. Now, this knife was a bit expensive. This was like $22. This is probably the only knife that I have never ordered. So this is... Actually, no, I have two knives that I've never ordered. I actually bought myself. So, this knife, I basically use to open boxes with. I would consider this a box cutter knife, even though it's not really a box cutter, but it's good for opening boxes, bags, anything really. If I need to break down anything, this is the kind of knife I would basically use. It is very, very sharp indeed. And it's got a nice edge to it. It's very pointy, very sharp. And yeah, I use this knife for a lot of things. Now, the only difference with this blade is that it is not a pocket knife. It's not the kind of knives where you just flick the blade out with a button on top. This does not have that. And the way to close this knife is you're not able to close it by putting your thumb here. You actually have to close it from behind. So there is a lock that presses in and it loosens the knife up. So you have to press that like all the way down in order to close it. So that's what this knife I use for. And this one, I don't really use it much for anything, but this is more of a knife that I just wanted to get for display. So this is one of the sickest knives that I have. This is a curved blade, and it is spring assisted, and it's very heavy on the handle, and it's I brought it because just to affect the style, and it looks really cool. So I don't normally really use this much unless I didn't really have a choice. I would probably use it to open things, but most of the time I have that knife to do it. But if I was missing one of my knives, I probably would use this. But this is a skull knife, and as you can see, it has ribs, and then right here it has the skull right there. And this knife is basically from the USA. And it is a stainless steel tactical blade. And this is a very sharp knife. This would really hurt somebody very, very bad. This knife, you just close it like this, and you just do that. And it does have the little trigger that you pull when it opens up. The only thing is this knife is a little bit hard to open, so you have to put a lot of force in it because it's a little hard. And then the way to close it is I just put my thumb right here, which is in the very middle, and I just push it in to the side and I just close it like that. And then we have one of my favorite knives that I got a while back. This I got from a store when I was on the ferry. This is a blade that is also a spring-assisted knife, and it has a metal skull on it, and it has a fire design on the blade itself and on the handle itself. And these come in red and orange, and this one's very easy to open. And as you can see, it has some orange fire. And this blade is a dark side blade, so I have two of these actually. So this blade, I mostly would use this if I'm cutting apples in half or, any kind of hard fruit. I would use this to cut with. Sometimes I would use this to maybe open bags of candy, for Halloween. If I need something to open a bag with, I would use this blade. So yeah, that's what I use this blade for, but I also use it for other purposes. But we'll get into that next time. And now to go on to the big boys. Well, actually, not yet, because I still have another knife. So in here, we have one of my favorites, and this one I call the little brother and the little sister. These are twin daggers, and these are basically handmade. So here we have an eagle designed dagger on the handle, as you can see. And as tiny as these little things are, they are very sharp, very painful, and terrifying. This one is the big brother, and it also has an eagle. So these are the same knives with the same design and everything. So these are one of my favorites because they're so cute and they're really small. And they are extremely, extremely sharp. They're really sharp. And I've also used these to open things up, but mostly I would use them for small jobs. As you can tell, these are really sharp. Listen to that. So those are really sharp knives. And I bought these for about $12. I think I got these for like $12 or something. I got them at Terrificon. Ow, oh, jeez, that just cut right through the sheath. That was terrifying. Oh, I almost cut myself because I felt that poke. That's the thing with these knives. They're so sharp sometimes. You have to be careful because they can actually cut right through the sheath, and that's not fun. That's pretty scary. It's nerve-wracking. So this is probably the only knife that I would have in my little case here. And I'm sorry again, it's not, I have 3 knives that were brought by me, basically, so. But most of my blades were ordered online. Alright. So now we're going to start with the karambits. Now I'm going to take all 3 of them out for you guys to show you what all the colors and designs. Now I have 2 that are basically a spider web design. Okay. So these are the 2 spider web designs. Now I know a lot about these. I've been reading a lot about them. So these ones are made for, they're not made for stabbing, they're not made for cutting, but they can cut you. These are actually made for, basically slashing and tearing. They were basically made to look like a tiger's claw because they are made to slash and they're made to tear. So they're made for slashing and tearing. They're not made for stabbing or anything like that. And basically a lot of people use these for carving, digging, slashing, tearing, because that's what these are basically for. And these are also made to be very fast weapons. So they're really, really fast. And it has a very hard, like a really hard kind of steel on it. And they're also used for self-defense. A lot of people use these for gutting fish too. And the way to hold these is if you want to hold it with this finger, and as you can see, it has little finger grips on it. You'll want to put your finger through there like this and hold it like that. And that's how these are basically made. So as you can see, these are made for slashing. So you can imagine the kind of damage and pain you would do with these. Very painful. No, I've never actually got cut by these, so thank God for that. And then I also have another Karambit, which is a gold one, which is my favorite because, hey, it's gold. Who doesn't like gold knives? These are really cool. These are also called CS gold knives because they are used in video games as well. Okay, now we're going to get to the big stuff. All right. All right, so let me get my smaller blades out of this box. Okay. Oh, wait, where's the M-Tech? M-Tech. Oh, where is my M-Tech blade? Oh, no. Oh, I forgot about this guy. Oh, you son of a bitch. Where is it? There it is. I thought I lost it. Okay, now because these blades are a bit bigger and more sharper, I'm going to put on my gloves. Where's the other one? It's so black in here, I can't see anything. Jeez. And this is why I said bear with me. Oh, there it is. So these gloves that I'm putting on right now, these are basically army gloves. They are tactical combat gloves. They increase the punches that you make, and they also protect your hands. It has very tight armory. So it has a strap on it, so I'm just going to put it on. All right, there we go. Got my protection on. So now that we went through those knives, we're going to talk about the ones that I have here now. So these are one of my first knives that I actually ever brought. This is a Z Hunter blade. And it was one of the blades that I used a lot back in my day. So as you can see, this blade has very worn art. Some of the paint came off because I use this blade so much. It's not more of the blade that is worn out. I mean that the artwork on the blade is actually worn out because I've used this blade so many times, and I also used to use this blade for cutting fruits and cutting up boxes and the kind of boxes that are really hard to open up, and this was the blade that actually would get the job done. And this is a stainless steel custom designed. This is a Z Hunter. It's one of the zombie hunting knives, even though zombies don't really exist. As you can see, it has serrated edges at the very bottom of the knife itself right here. And then it has a silver line on the blade underneath. And it has a very good feel to it. It's a very hard metal. It is stainless steel. And it's very, very sharp. I've used this blade on many things. Also, like, for instance, I've tested out on paper. I just don't want to cut myself. Oh my God. It's a very sharp blade. So that's one of the first blades. It does have a bit of a smell to it. It's so old. And now we have another dark side blade. Except this one is a dragon, and I got this one from Wish. This was all the way from China. And they had these in red, gold, and blue. And so this one is also a curved blade. It looks almost like a karambit, but it is not a karambit. This blade is basically the same as a karambit. It is used for slashing and tearing. And this has a dragon's eye on there. And as the other blade, it does say dark side blade on it. And the difference, though, between the karambit and this blade is that it does not have a ring on it. But they do just about the same job, so I really don't have to explain much into this one, but this one is just as the same as the karambit. And this one's a hard steel. And then we have another snake eye blade. I have 3 of these things because I have like the skull one, the snake one, and the horn one. Now this was also one of my favorites and the most deadliest ones. This is also a snake eye blade. And this has horns on it. So this one, the difference between this one is, look how it opens up. This is curved and it's very fast, unlike my other knives. And this was made in China, but I did not receive this one from China. I actually got this from eBay, but I don't use eBay anymore. But this is one of the knives that I got off of eBay. Now, one of the many reasons why I enjoy this blade is because of the design and because it is very sharp. And because of the fact that it can cut fairly easy. So basically, if I wanted to cut something, this cuts. This cuts pretty good. See how well that cuts? And also, what I also like about this blade is not just because it's sharp, but look at the design on it. It has skulls. Now, it's kind of hard for me to tell that these were skulls at first because of the way that they're positioned. But there are skulls on these. If you look very closely, there are skulls on the side. And the red part are a chain. And then, unlike the other one, it also has a serrated edge, but it's more on top. So, and I don't normally use this for cutting bags or anything because the fact that the way that this blade is designed is when you slice something, it's more of a slashing and it kind of gets messy and candy gets, thrown everywhere and it doesn't cut a straight line. So you can tell that this is made mostly for combat. And I also like it because if I want to open, say, I don't like champagne, but for example, if I wanted to open a bottle of champagne or I wanted to open a bottle of wine or or hard cider like Angry Orchard. So what I do is I have these horns here, and basically what I use these horns for is if I need to open a bottle of any kind of drink, I would basically take the horns and I turn the blade around like this, and I would just basically lift up the lid. And I could also do it this way as well, or I can just go and pull it backwards. So this is a pretty good knife. It's very useful. And now we're going to go with another one of my favorite knives. This one I got from China, and I got it from Wish. This is the most deadliest knife I have. So as you can see, this is part brass knuckle and part blade. And you can either fight with it by holding it like this, of course, because it's a brass knuckle. And this was the only one that had a skull design, so of course I got that. Now, the one that you have to be careful about this blade is that it does get confusing. You don't want to ever hold your hand here, because that is where the blade comes out from. So when you're putting it out, you see how fast that is? That is very dangerous. And if I did not have these gloves on and my hand was right here, this would have really cut my hand up. So when you're using this blade, you hold it like this, and when you're fine, you can either punch them and then stab them, you know, or you can go like this and then do that. So that's how this blade works. Have I used this on something? I have tested it out, basically. I've tested this out on metal cans because I will test out the punching force from the brass knuckles. I also tested this out on cutting open, you know, bags. I've also tested out on some paper. Like for, you know, I have tested this out on paper. I just cut that up with this knife. So this is pretty small. I should have cut it a bigger piece. If I had a box, I would show you how much damage this does, but I do not, so I'm sorry about that. And the way to basically close this knife is basically where's the, oh yeah, I think I know. I haven't used this in a while, so I kind of forget sometimes. Oh yeah, here we go. So now the thing is with this blade is you have to be careful when you're closing it, because it is a sharp knife. It's extremely fast, super, super quick. So, because this is why I wear gloves, because some knives like this, I have to close them like that. So you want to put your fingertips right on both sides of this knife, and then you hear that click, that's when you close it, and then slowly move your hand out of the way. And then you want to put your finger on top, then put it right here between the rings and make sure that it's closed. Now, do not absolutely put your finger right there, because when you're closing this knife, sometimes it may not be completely pushed in. And if this knife and your finger is right here, it'll cut your finger, and that hurts. You do not want to do that. So I always do keep the boxes too, because you don't want to leave these knives out of their box because they're so sharp and they're really dangerous. Now this knife I never take out in public because brass knuckles are very much illegal. Just imagine how illegal this is. I would be accused of murder. Okay, and now we have one of my best knives. This is the M-Tech, and I kept the box for this one. That is a pretty box. This is a Marine's knife. Now, this knife is very dangerous. This knife almost looks like a freaking shotgun when it's closed like this. So the way that this knife works is you can immediately see the blade right here. And this knife actually opens a little bit slower. And as you can see, this has some serrated edges on it. And it's very, very sharp. And this cuts through paper as well. So, again, I'm gonna... So this knife cuts pretty good. I want to keep putting paper though, because my mother's gonna kill me. Like, what's up with all the paper on the floor? This blade is really, really sharp, and it is a military blade, and it is a marine blade, like I said. It's really sharp, made in the USA, and so it's officially licensed by the USMC, and is a USA designed knife. I believe this blade is made of copper steel, and it has a little bit of stainless steel in it, but it's really sharp. When I first got this knife, I was so nervous holding it in my hands because it was just so sharp. It was terrifying. In my opinion, this knife is pretty bulky. Alright. Now I'm going to show you guys the bigger ones. This, as you can already tell, yes, this is a machete. But this is a small machete. But it's a big knife. Have I tested this out? Yes, I have. I've tested this out on weeds. I've tested this out on cutting branches off, and it cuts pretty good. It's a little rusty, so I might have to do some cleaning. But is this blade sharp? It is sharp because I'm going to try and cut this without hurting myself. There you go. So I just cut that off with this. So this cuts like nothing. This is a badass knife. Well, machete. Now, I would be careful on what you do use this machete for, because yes, it is sharp, but it's probably not strong enough to cut through a thick, big piece of branch. Not that I would see anybody would use this for branches, I mean, but this would probably cut through some pretty skinny branches. This can also cut weeds up, because that's technically what this is made for and what this is used for. And now the one that literally sent me to the hospital, I'm not lying. This is also a military blade. This is an M-Tech Extreme, and this is very well known by many people. This blade actually sent me to the freaking hospital, and you can easily tell why. One, it has serrated edges on top. Two, it is very sharp at the very tip of it and at the very bottom. And this has a finger guard, so it protects your hand, but not even that is enough. But because I'm wearing gloves, this is enough to protect me. So basically, a lot of people use this kind of knife to basically cut through wood. And this is basically what a lot of people use this particular blade for. The reason why this sent me to the hospital is because I did something really stupid. I mean, we all make mistakes, but I did something really dumb, and I should have known better. But this blade is so painful, because I remember when I cut my hand, I cut from like here down, and the blood ended up within seconds. My entire hand was already covered in blood, and it was just dripping all the way down my arm. And this blade is so painful. I'm not even kidding. It's terrifying. So, yeah, this blade was expensive because this was close to $40. So, that's one of the deadliest weapons I have. Right? And then another deadly weapon that I own are my combat claws. Now, these are given a lot of names. Now, the reason I wear these gloves is also because, unlike this one, for some odd reason, this one has some pretty sharp edges between the finger holes, and it kind of hurts when I'm holding it with my bare hands. So that's why I wear these gloves, so that when I put my fingers through and I swing at something, it won't hurt as much. But I know that if I don't have these on and I'm swinging, this really hurts your fingers. It's so painful. So these are pretty sharp. Now, these blades are called combat claws. These are used for camping, hunting, and survival. So you can tell these are made for slashing, and this could kill an animal. So if these also have serrated edges on top, as you can tell. So these are made of copper steel, and these are like my favorites because these remind me of Wolverine. So what's weird is that one of these claws actually cost me a lot of money, and it was this one. This one cost me around almost the same price as the Antec Extreme. Why this one was actually much cheaper, which was like $20, and I was like, what the hell? So I ended up ordering 2 of these because I was like, I can't be Wolverine without both claws. So I was like, oh my god, these are so cool. So when I got these both in the mail, I was super excited. One of these actually came from China. So I got one from Amazon and then one from China. So these are pretty cool. Also, when I do put these in, you also want to be careful because these are pointy. So these don't bend all the way completely. But see the way that the sheath is? It is shitty. I'm sorry. But you want to, like, let me see if I can just open this thing. You want to hold that open and try not to cut your fingers off. And basically, sometimes I have to play with it, but I try to push it through. Okay. And then you just basically put the strap on so that it doesn't come out. And there you go. All right. Now these blades go on my shelf. So that's basically all I have for you guys. I do have another set of claws, but this one actually is not made to cut anything. This is it's made to look menacing, but these are not real. I mean, it's real metal, but they're not really made to cut anything. These are not sharp at all. Like, literally, I'm just doing this to my hand and it doesn't hurt me. If I did that to my hand, like right now, if these were the combat claws, I would have already stabbed myself by just doing this. But these are not sharp. This is actually just for a display. It is low quality because one of the skulls broke off, but this is very old. I've had this for many, many years growing up. And I just got it for display because it just looks really cool, and it has like claws at the bottom, and it has like little spikes on the side of the head and skull. So these are not really sharp, but you could probably still get cut by these, so I would still be very cautious. Just because something is made not to be, not to be sharp doesn't mean that it's not sharp enough to cut through flesh. But most of the time this doesn't hurt me. So yeah, that's basically what this one is for. Just for display. Alright guys, so that's just about it for the weapons that I have. I mean, I have swords too, but you already guys know what swords are for. Alright, so hope you guys enjoyed that video and keep supporting me. I hope I get more subscribers. Alright, so I'm going to stop the video now so that I can put all this stuff away and have a wonderful day.